pushing you. But just keep twirling it. It might stay in place. Hey guys, and welcome to the September wrap up. I read a few books that I really loved this month and a few books we'll get to that. The first book that I finished in September was The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. This is the second book in the Kingkiller Chronicles. The only thing I have to say about this book is that it has a bit more mature content, but apart from that, it's just a fantastic story. Like, honestly, this trilogy, I'm kind of annoyed at myself for starting it already because still no sign of, you know, the third full-length book, and we're just gonna wait for it. I can't go too much into the plot because this is a sequel, but basically the first book is about this guy who has lived an extraordinary life and he's telling about it. And it's just got such a cool world and magic system. The sequel was just as good, though it is a monster. It's nearly 1,000 pages long. But honestly, you just fly through it and you don't even notice. The next book I read was the novella The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss. This is a novella that goes along with the Kingkiller Chronicles about one of the characters who we don't see too much in the books. Patrick Rothfuss in this book really makes you feel for inanimate objects, which is weird, but the character really cares for them, so you really care for them. I'm not sure if it's my favorite. I'm glad I read it. The illustrations were really cool. They're just simple like ink drawings, so I liked this book. Not necessarily my favorite, but one that I enjoyed. The next book I read I also did a review for, and that is Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt. This is a children's classic about a girl who finds a family that never ages, and it's really a sweet, beautifully written story. If you want more of my thoughts on that, I'll link the review below, but honestly, I would recommend this book to everybody, and it's short, so you really just have no excuse. The next thing I read I honestly wasn't expecting to make much progress in, and that is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. This is the last classic that's been on my shelf that I haven't read. It's been there for so long that I'd lost a lot of my interest in it, but I kind of picked it up because it was the last book that I was procrastinating reading, and I loved it. I couldn't put it down. I read for hours each morning when I was reading this book, which wasn't good because I was trying to get my thesis done. I haven't become this invested in a classic in years. Basically, if you don't know what The Woman in White is, it's a story about this guy who one day sees a woman dressed completely in white on the road. She's kind of in trouble and he tries to help her, and then she disappears, and then he goes to work for this family. And the family has a couple of secrets and stuff going on in it, and everything kind of seems to connect, and you don't know how, and things get dangerous and things get like secretive, and it's just a really cool book. I wasn't expecting to like it. I really liked the romance element of it. It was done slowly and it felt realistic. This book in places could be slow paced, but I found that I didn't really mind because the story was still interesting. Apart from the fact that this is a classic, I don't know why I procrastinated reading it for so long, but I'm so glad that I picked it up just on a whim during this month, because otherwise it could have been there for years and I wouldn't have known that I love Wilkie Collins if I hadn't picked it up. So there we go, lots of classics this month. Like, honestly, because the next book that I'm going to show you I'm still reading, but it is Ovid's Metamorphoses. I don't think I've ever hauled this book on the channel because I got this for a class I was taking, and I didn't really ever intend to read the whole thing the whole way through like a novel, so I was gonna get it for class and read what I needed to. If you don't know what Ovid's Metamorphoses is, it is a huge long Roman poem. I don't think it's Greek, I think it's Roman. And it is basically a ton of stories all about things that turn into other things. So they, you know, metamorphoses. It's in the name. There's people who turn into animals, punishments from the gods, that kind of thing. Some of them are pretty funny and some of them are like, they make no sense. But I've studied classics and I just find it entertaining and decided I was going to pick it up, read a couple of stories every day, and I'm about midway through now. So we'll see how it goes. But that's not all. That's not all. There's one more. But I'm tentatively adding this. You'll see what I mean. Voices from the Titanic, edited by Jeff Tibbles. This book needs a bit of explaining to you, okay? One day my parents were having a big clean out and a whole load of things were being thrown out. And there was a couple of books that got thrown out, and as I was walking outside I saw them in the dump. When I saw them there, it felt like such a shame because no one had read them, so I decided to adopt them, and this was the last one of those books because I thought, you know, the Titanic is really interesting and really sad. I'm gonna read this book because it's got like eyewitness accounts and stuff. For the 3 years that this book has been on my TBR shelf, I haven't wanted to read it. I have not wanted to read this book. I have read about 50 pages now. The first 30 pages are descriptions about how big the ship is, okay? Now I get that it's a big ship. I've seen the movie, okay? It was the biggest of its time, But you don't need 30 pages giving exact measurements for every deck and every height of everything and the weight of everything. You don't need 30 pages of this. This isn't Moby Dick. This isn't the chapter about the whiteness of the whale. We don't need another thing like that in literature, okay? This is supposed to be eyewitness account. After the first 30 pages comes the next 20 pages. And those 20 pages are about just before the Titanic pulls out of the dock. It almost bumps into another ship, but it doesn't. Do you think that needs 20 pages? No. Neither do I. But after that, it starts to talk about the actual passengers and you get a couple of eyewitness accounts, that kind of thing. Now, this is what I wanted from this book, but I realized after reading, honestly, not very many, that I didn't want this. I didn't want this. I was reading it and that like one sentence before each of these accounts would be like, this person never made it home. This person lost their child. This person was writing to their mother and she never saw them again. I don't want to read this. This is making me miserable. A couple of days ago, I decided to watch the movie to try and encourage myself to read it again. That was the worst start to a Monday morning I've ever had. Like, don't watch it in the morning. It's not a morning time movie because the rest of the entire day you will be miserable after watching the movie. Not immediately, but I think in the same day. And I was reading these, you know, real eyewitness accounts and it felt like, you know, these are real people who never made it home or who had people who never made it home. And I realized I don't want to read this book because not only do I find this book boring, but now it's making me miserable too. And as it's a book that I picked out of a dump, I didn't even pay for this, I literally picked it out of a dump. You know what? I'm not going to finish this. I made the decision a few days ago, but I've been procrastinating saying anything about it because I hate not finishing books. I'm going to get rid of this book and I'm not going to keep it. So I'm taking the bookmark out. It's Doctor Who bookmark. Oh. That was unintentional. I'm going to give it to the secondhand bookstore because I don't feel like putting it back in a skip, but I'm definitely not going to finish reading it. Bet you guys weren't expecting a rant today, were you? Well, there you go. My gift to you. I hope it was entertaining because nothing else about that book is. Anyway, most of the other books I read this month I really, really loved, particularly Took Everlasting, and surprisingly, I loved The Woman in White too. Such a fantastic classic. If you like classics and you haven't picked it up, definitely give it a try. It's a little long, but it's just so good. Now I'm going to try and finish Ovid's Metamorphoses. Maybe not today, but I'll probably get it finished by Monday. And then I've got a whole load of books on my shelf that are new that I haven't read yet. So I'm probably going to pick up one of those. Let me know in the comments what book you're looking forward to reading next month. I'm thinking I'm going to pick up All That She Can See. That's what I think I'm going to pick up. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.